All right, so welcome to the final MEL session for our MEL 2018 event. So we wanted to give you guys another opportunity. I know there were some questions in some of the other MEL talks that folks that didn't get a chance to answer. So this is just pretty much an open discussion. Anything that any of the speakers may want to say, you could use this time to do that. But any questions that you may have, I know there are a number of people in Jesse's MEL talk that still had some questions, so please feel free to not be shy and use the mic over to your left, and you can go ahead and ask your questions. So we'll jump right into the question part of it. Sure.
Hello again, my name is Pamela, and from Chicago, and one of the questions that I had was, first of all, has anybody seen What the Health?
With the health.
So after I watched that, it kind of messed me up in my head. Seriously. I have started back eating chicken a little bit, but that show, that movie, if you like your chicken, don't watch that movie. I'm serious. But anyway, so Jesse, you know, what you shared today made me excited about eating just healthier. As you can see, I don't weigh much, but I don't need to lose weight. I need to be able to maintain and just feel healthy. So I have a few things in my body I need to address. My question to you is, where do you shop? I mean, we have Whole Foods,
Yeah.
but I kid you not, like the other young lady said, it's for some cultures, it's not always affordable, but you know, I don't worry about that either because I live a fasted life. I fast every week, and so I'm praying. That's how we get to that point, by prayer and fasting. So, but on the real side, where do you shop?
Okay. So first thing is, let's embrace a mentality that our health is worth whatever transitions and changes we need to make. Okay? That's number one. Because people will say, well, it's expensive. Well, guess what? Cancer is more expensive. Okay? So let's start there. Number two is there are farmers markets. There are food co-ops. There's a gentleman I was just speaking to in the hallway. He grows his own. So what we're deciding is, you know, in terms of there are things that we're first of all taking ownership for our health and understanding. Remember what I said earlier, we're making a decision to become the hero in the story of our healing and no longer the accomplice in the story of our disease. So that's preeminent. As far as where you can get healthy foods, remember, it doesn't have to have the organic label for it to actually be organically grown. So there are food co-ops and farmers markets in many of our cities where local farmers grow the produce, and they just can't afford to get the organic labeling, go through that processing with the government, but they're organically growing it. You don't care about the label, you just care that the food is actually free of pesticides and toxins. And the way you can test that, as I said earlier, you can put the food, you know, put a piece of fruit, a piece of whatever, the vegetable in the mason jar, that's the glass jars, and you watch it for 72 hours and see if it becomes white, spored with fungus and, you know, mold on it, or the white fuzzy hair, or if it just withers and dies. If it's organic, it will just, kind of like a grape grows into a raisin, becomes shriveled and withers. That's what will happen to it if it's organically grown. So that's number one. Develop relationships with the produce, the people in your neighborhood, and find out where foods are available that are locally grown. And then when it comes to shopping online, you can get foods from like Amazon and VitaCost, and there are resources on our website, thedetoxnow.com/resources, where you can find online stores as well for like your dried goods and things like that. Your question, just so people heard her question, it's about fish. So we don't recommend fish because, again, when we look at what your body You have to look at how your body metabolizes it. Does it cause inflammation when you eat it?
I can't do
Okay.
that. I'm sorry. No.
Listen to me. You have
Fish.
to, what happens to your body when
We
you
are
eat it?
surrounded by water
Okay.
in the Bahamas.
I know that, but that's
That
still
is
that.
full
But
of
you also
fish.
are full of fruits and vegetables in the Bahamas.
Man.
Fish are living beings,
This
and
is
because
tough.
of that, they live in the water. Yes, but that doesn't mean that they're supposed to actually be consumed because of what they do to your body. What does it do to your blood count? What does it do to your body's digestive process? That's the barometer as to whether or not you should be eating it. Okay? You're welcome.
All right, so on the same subject,
Okay.
as Charo mentioned, we live in the Bahamas, and you mentioned a lot of options that might be available here in the U.S.
Yes.
And a lot of those aren't available at home. In fact, there's a lot of organic food that is in the Bahamas with the labels, but when you research them and you research the reviews on those things, like the part that makes it organic is like marginal in
Really?
the grand scheme of what I want. Right? So I was talking to my wife about it while you were talking earlier. And I called her, actually.
Oh, good.
And
I love this.
she wanted to know, so at her work, they're actually developing a farm.
Great.
Yeah, and so that's that's their way of trying to make sure that they have more organic foods.
That's right.
The challenge is, how do you protect against pesticides? Like you don't want to use pesticides, but then you got insects eating your food. Like, what do
Well,
you
I
do?
mean,
What do
that's-
you recommend?
It's a discipline, growing foods organically. Now, I'm not a farmer. I do know that there are resources out there in terms of how to grow your foods without pesticides. A gentleman who was here was telling me he grows his without pesticides in his own garden. I don't know if he's here right now. There he is, yeah. So,
Okay, I'll pick your brain.
there you go. So the point... excuse me. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
His wife said
Yes,
she does the
ma'am.
farming.
Receipts. Show your receipts, mama. But that's the point. The point is when we want to know it, everything we need access to is available to us, right? And then there are things that are in the island that you have that we don't have. You have that potent UVB rays, the sunlight that you get in the islands.
It's hot. It hurts.
And it's not just about the temperature. When the sun is above 50-degree altitude, that's 50 degrees. And if you get the app is called the Sky Tracker for iOS or SunCalc for Android users. The links to them are on our resources page on thedetoxnow.com. You actually can track the altitude of the sun wherever you are in the world. And you'll know anytime the sun's altitude is above 50, you have something called UVB, and then above 70 it's UVC rays. That potent sun actually is one of the most important things for your health, okay? Many of us, we spend a lot of times in offices and we don't make sure that we spend time and actually arrange for our schedules to be outside in the sun, whether it's take lunch outside, be out, do your work outside. Well, guess what? Your vitamin D levels are actually very critical to your body's ability to break down inflammation and tumor, okay? That's why when people have high vitamin D levels, they have less cases of inflammatory conditions. So you have to take advantage of the things that you have access to where you are. In New York, we wish we had access to the sun. You do.
Come to the Bahamas, guys. That's what she's trying to say.
That's what I'm saying. And of course, worry about the foods that you do have. Why do you keep elbowing me? You in other words, consume the foods. Don't worry about the foods that are not available. And this is for everybody. Don't worry about the foods. You say, oh, you said I have to have, well, you don't have that, but you do have mangoes, don't you? That's one of the most powerful foods on the planet are mangoes and avocados.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hello, I'm Ayana Phillip from Brooklyn, New York. Thank you very much, first and foremost, to the whole panel for your inspiration, your motivation, and your great stories that you shared. I'm going to digress a little bit. I have a business question. And Brother Mark was speaking about, well, first of all, I'm transitioning from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset. I'm getting ready to launch my first business as an organizational management consultant. Okay? My question is to Sister Erica Mejia, since you already launched the business. What is the number one tip for branding? because, I was told that your brand is everything. So me now venturing out on my first business, what tips can you give me for that?
Well, I would say definitely know exactly what you're wanting to do to be able to, and say that to whoever your customer is going to be, but never compromise the value of what you do. For me, there were a lot of things that I didn't have access to and I didn't have money to do, but I knew that I could not compromise the quality of my service.
Okay.
And so that would be my number one thing, is to just never compromise that and know who you are and really sell that. And people will always recognize, like for me now that I know is with my logo, whenever I go around town, people know who I am. They see that and they know, oh, and then they also know the quality of the service that I provide as well.
Thank you. I heard Oprah said, let excellence be your brand. So thanks for that.
And I'm going to add to her, and I was going to say the same thing. Don't compromise quality for cost.
Right.
Because, and I'm going through this as I'm building my own brand.
Right.
We tend to want to take the shortcut.
Mm.
And sometimes taking the shortcut is exactly that. It's going to be shortcut. You may get results, but it's going to be short term.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, you may have to spend a couple more dollars on the front end than you actually have. I would rather you not do anything at all and wait until you get what you need than to put out something mediocre
Right.
and then it flops anyway.
Right.
I've been there, done that.
Okay.
And now you have to clean up.
Right.
And so now I'm at a point where, okay, if I had to spend $10 more than what I would spend to get something excellent,
Right.
I'd rather do that than to spend $10 less and it's still not what I want,
Right.
but I'm so in a hurry
Right.
to get it out,
Right.
out of season, out of time, I just push it out there.
Mm.
And the other thing too, I would say, is you do pay for what you get. So if you compromise or you're like, I just can't afford this, like Teresa was saying, save for what you need, because if you try to do the short end of stuff, you're going to end up looking and spending more money to fix the problem that you actually could have avoided if you just had some patience in that area.
Thank you. Thanks.
So I have two questions, one for Anton and one for Teresa and Erica. On the point you just made, you said, keep waiting until you have enough, but there are some people who strive for perfection, and there's never a right time, in my opinion, to launch. Well, people think there's always going to be time, we should wait for perfection, but I feel like there's nothing called perfection. So wherever you are, you should start, and you continue to build to a place where you feel like this is perfection. Well, that's just how I take that. What are your thoughts on that? And Antoine, you are someone who I feel like you said that you didn't really love baseball, but it's something that you continue to do. What is your advice to people who don't love their jobs, who aren't really good at it, but looking to find their purpose in that thing that they're doing? What is your advice to them?
Well, I'll just say I'm a very critical person of myself. And one thing that I had to do was understand that I'm never going to be perfect. My business will probably never be perfect, but it should be an excellence. And so when I started to change the way that I thought to strive for excellence, and even when it's coming to where you want to just start, you have to step out. For me, I had to step out in faith, because obviously I had no money. I was homeless. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I had to start somewhere. But I did all of my homework so that I could start at an excellent level with what I had. So.
And to add to that, he was talking to me and totally got me. I missed my thought.
Yeah, I do stuff like that. Sorry.
Go ahead, ask the question.
Okay, my apologies. So I don't know. But hold on. I guess so. The way I know personally. So yeah, I would say, because baseball grew on me. I definitely say that, right? So what I would say is that I found the things that I loved about it, and like I said, like for me, I love to compete, and that was just something that I love to do. So that was one aspect of it that I really enjoyed. Because even like right now, when people ask me, do I miss it? I don't miss playing the games. What I do miss though is the relationships I would build, the locker room, and when we would talk and kind of mess around and stuff like that. And so I think it's just finding the things that you do love about it and using that to drive you in what you in your purpose.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback off what Antoine was saying, during our MEL talk, someone asked a question about how did he feel when, other players got more recognition than him, but him being a part of the success. And he said something that I think was very important. He said, find what you do well and just do that. So you might not be skilled in every facet of the business or the team or the sport, whatever it is that you do. But, Antoine was fast, so I think he used his quickness to, he is fast, as he's making that a point. He still is fast. You got to prove that, but okay. But, just find that thing that you do well and do it with excellence, like Erica was saying.
And I think one of the things that might be subtly missed is when Antoine was talking about he didn't want to put the work in for track and field. He transferred his skill to baseball where it would be valued. And even though he didn't have this immense amount of talent in baseball, he had a particular skill that differentiated him, and he leveraged that to create his career. And so there may be things where you haven't put the work in for the full track and field, but there's a piece that you can transfer to someplace else. And that's the place, to use Charo's principle, that's the place where you can trigger your purpose and value equation and apply passion to that thing for the season necessary to create your platform.
Good job, man.
Hi, Renee Morgan. My question is to Mark. What are your top 3 tips for building personal wealth? Because, when you were not employed, you were able to sustain yourself and live a life, as a full, enjoyable life nonetheless. So I'm interested to know what your process is in making financial decisions.
Yeah, well, again, I'm going to give you a book, The Richest Man in Babylon, right, by George Clayson. And basically, he has the 5 rules of gold, right? And one of them is pay yourself, right? Pay yourself first. Now, as a believer, I pay my tithes, and then I pay myself, right? But spend less than you make, right? That's the beginning. W. Clement Stone said, if you cannot save money, you cannot achieve greatness. And so at the end of the day, I don't care how much it is, set savings goals and achieve them. That discipline translates into other things. So the 3 things: read Richest Man in Babylon, spend less than you make, and have a vision for how you want to live when you're no longer able to be employed or don't want to be employed. Like, one of the things I hope we don't miss, Anton is 35 years old and retired. That's a huge outcome for a guy who did something he didn't love. But at 35, he is free. I'm not free yet. I'm close, but I'm not free yet. And so you have to have a vision for where you want to go and what you want to do and how you want to live, and that will curtail your spending. One of the disciplines I have, I write down every dollar I spend. I can tell you for the last 20 years, every dollar that I have spent, where it has gone to and why.
How much you spent on Equalizer yesterday?
Say it again?
How much you spent at the movies yesterday? How much did you spend at the movies yesterday?
Hold on. No, but it's fine. I can tell him how much cash I spent yesterday.
He'll tell you. Oh, at the movies. Yeah, he'll tell you that. Piece of paper, and he puts it in Quicken.
Yeah, I spent $10 tipping somebody, $10 on popcorn, and $14 on pizza for my
Yo, so
little
he
girl.
has a piece of paper. He literally writes down
Yeah.
what he spends.
Yeah,
And then he puts it on Quicken
Literally.
afterwards.
Wow.
and I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah, I just wanted to, you mentioned Quicken, I wanted to ask about any apps or tools that you use to, you know.
Yeah, I use Quicken. That's what I use. I use Quicken.
And for business owners, QuickBooks. For business owners, QuickBooks is good. We use QuickBooks. You're welcome.
To Sharice's question regarding perfect time, and there's no perfect time. And you're right, there is no perfect time, and there also is no perfect anything. But there's the right time. And when I say, you know, if I rather you hold off on doing something until you can do it in excellence, because excellence is key. And if you can't do that one thing, then reprioritize your list of things that you can do. Start where you are right now with what you have. And so if you don't have the resources, you may have something else that you can do that don't require money. It may require you just need to sit down and think. It may require the use of a friend that you're able to use to get something out. And then two, you know, for a long time, you may have to serve. That's where leadership starts, with serving. Erica talked about it the full 4 years. She just volunteered and volunteered and volunteered. And now she's one of the best leaders in her community. So how much are you willing to sacrifice at whatever the cost is or no cost to get really and truly what you want?
And I think people sometimes confuse excellence with extravagance. And excellence can be simple. Like clean is excellent, right? Like if something is clean and tidy and organized at a certain level, that's excellent. Because you can be big and chaotic. And so don't confuse excellence with extravagance. Sometimes excellence is really, really simple.
And then I guess to piggyback off of that stuff, so we talk about perfection and, you know, talking about like, you know, it doesn't exist and stuff like that. But I think our effort, we could be perfect in our effort or in our intent. And I think that's where we could look for perfection is with our effort and our intent. And not so much worry about the talk louder. Oh, okay. Thank you. So yeah, just be perfect in your intent and your effort.
Again, I just want to say thank you to all of you and for the vision here, Chiro and Teresa. This is a question for you guys. As you have facilitated and brought this great group and the panel here together, what would be your vision growing out of this, given the unity and the information? Is there a way to, you know, from the kingdom mindset, how do we continue to bring glory coming out of this conference, one, from the resources that we have here that we've learned, but also from each other? What would be your vision in an ideal state of what you'd like to see coming out of this for all of us when we go home?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part of what you said.
It was just saying thank you
okay.
for facilitating this.
So,
Yes. Thanks.
you're welcome, first of all. But, you know, the networking is important to me. Sorry, your question is, what do I see?
What in an ideal state would be your vision coming out of a conference like this, given kind of the powerhouse forum that you've created?
You're talking about for the people that attended, or for the conference itself?
For the people that attended. So
okay.
what's the lasting impression? If you could say, hey, this is what I would love for you guys to go push out. What does that look like?
For this particular conference?
For us here.
Okay, so there's a thread amongst the speakers here, right? And it was intentional, something that was intentional from me, and I hoped you guys picked up on it. Everyone at some point on this stage went through something, went through a disruption in their life. Whether it was Mark losing, with Mark who lost his job, Jesse going through her fibroids issue, Erica losing everything, and then Toan having to really dig in to make it to the major leagues, and the process that took, and obviously Tris and I with, you know, losing our parents. And it's you know, we're all going to face crisis, we're all going to face challenges, and we don't know how it's going to look. We don't know how that's going to come at us. Like Teresa was saying, you have three options. You could either dodge it, two options, dodge it or catch it. So, but the key is to prepare prepare, because there's nothing that is going to go perfect in life. We're always going to face challenges. So I think what I want everyone to take away is that we all go through issues. We all experience the same things, regardless of where we are in our professional life, our personal life, our spiritual life. Each phase of our life is going to be tested. But you are strong enough to make it through. The reason why it's happening to you is because maybe you need to prove to yourself that you can. And I just wanted to use us as an example to everyone here, that there is another side. And I think Antoine said it best. He summed up basically everything that this particular conference was about. And I can't remember it, but the first thing you said when you walked on stage.
Oh, sometimes the place that you are sometimes the place that you used to isn't the place where you belong.
Right. So whatever you're used to, this moment that you're in life right now, you don't belong there. It's a process that you're going through to make it to the other side.
My name is Daryl Knight. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. My question is to Miles and Cheryl. The reason I am here is because Dr. Miles impacted my entire life. He taught me so much. And my wife and I have pictures of them all through our house. And he was such a great inspiration to me into deciding and knowing that I was a child of God made in his image and had his powers. I grew up in a very religious setting, coming from, my church background was very religious, and I had to do a mental transformation to grasp the concepts that he brought to me, which were so true. So my question to you guys is, first of all, I would like to know, and it's probably pretty personal, how it was growing up with him, and then how do you personally, each of you, in your personal talk to your self-talk, grab this ball that he left you, and in dealing with his demise and all of that, do what you're doing. I'm so proud of you guys, and I'm hoping that we get to know you on a personal level, because it was Monday when I looked and I said, look at this, they're doing something in Florida. That's close, because we've been trying to get to the Bahamas since 2014. So we had to be here, and this has been a great experience for me. It's taught me about myself, and another thing that I look around and I see are young, and it brings me to tears to where I just drop my hands, because I have 5 children. I have 18 grandchildren. 18. And my question, what I say to myself is, where's the hope? And I think of a passage that Jesus says, will there be any love on the earth when I return? And seeing what you guys are doing, not in a religious setting, but inspiring the next generation, I'm very pleased. So if you can talk to me about how, Teresa kind of touched on it, about your relationship with God, because it's got to be God pushing you to do what you do. Can you talk to me about what your mindset is, what goes through your mind? How do you strengthen yourself? What time do you take and get that book called the Bible and pull out of it the strength that you need to do what you need to do with what you've been through. I can imagine how you do that.
Well, there's never, ever going to be enough time for me to answer a question like that. Because it's as simple as your question is, the answer is loaded. And it's overloaded. But to try and keep it simple, you said a very good word, which is my brother and I are exactly that, examples of hope. There is hope. And there is life. There is truly life after death. There is truly life with purpose, in purpose. And he was asking me, Antoine was asking me a question yesterday, and I'm telling him, if it wasn't because of purpose, if it wasn't because hearing my dad's messages, like literally I go through every day, all day, every situation, saying to myself, WWDD, what would daddy do? And so, because I've learned so much from him and I've watched so much, what would Jesus do? Then what would daddy do? And I'm telling you, and I hear him all the time, oh, this is my dad, he would this is my dad, he would this. And there's always something that I don't want to do because it's so Miles Monroe, you know? And it's like, there were things that he did and my brother was like, Daddy, why would you react that way? And those are the times when we learned from him. I'll be talking to people and I have a friend in here now and I would say something to her and she's like, oh, you sound just like your dad. And so some of that I can't help. And so, you know, we've been prepared to up to a certain point, the point where everything happened. And I think from this point on, now it's Charo and I's responsibility to now depend on the only one person that we have left, and that's Jesus Christ. And so when I say I catch the ball and now I don't know what to do with it, I don't know what to do. I mean, every day, I don't know what in the world I'm doing. And so having to depend on God and his resources, in his word, in persons that he would bring into my life. And I'm not a big tell me prophecy and I'm going to believe what you say type of person, by no means. So he knows that if he wants me to hear something and see something that he's going to bring through somebody else, he has to tell me the exact same thing multiple times from multiple people that have nothing to do with each other. And then that's when I'm going to say, okay, so maybe this is truly a sign from God. But it's not an easy road. It's a challenging road, but it's not an impossible road because of God.
Yeah, and I think for me, just to answer your question real quickly, the best decision I ever made was moving home in 2009. I think had that not happened, I don't know how losing my parents would have affected me. Because moving home, I was able to work with my dad every day, and through that period, I learned everything that I know and I'm able to do today. Like, that's the reason why. I grew up with my father my entire life, right? But he was just my dad at that point. Moving back home, he became a mentor to me. He became a confidant to me. He became my spiritual father. He became more than just a father for me. So I would ask him questions every day. And, you know, Charissa, she's right. Like, I would be like, yo, why do you make these decisions, or why do you take so long to do certain things, or why don't you take your time or more time in doing certain things? And things that he did, I understood why he did it. I got to really dig into him as a leader, not just a father, but as a leader, and being the head of so many organizations. And I think I started to really grasp what he was teaching as well, because getting to travel with him, you know, I was able to experience him in so many different settings that there's a different spirit that is on him when he's on stage, to where after he teaches, when he goes to get something to eat, and when he talks, like, you learn so much from him in every part of his life. You know, when he and I would have one-on-one meetings, like if I'm frustrated with something that's going on in the business, and I go to him and we sit down and we talk about it, I get a better understanding of how I can deal with it, because he's a much different person than I am. He is way more patient, and he manages people very much better than I can. I'm working on it. But I've learned steps that I can take and things that I can use to better myself in certain areas. And I've seen the improvement in myself because of what I was able to observe through him and learn from him. I'm able to apply those to my life now. So you're asking how? There's no answer to how. I mean, well, there's only one answer to how. And it's honestly, it's just God. Like, my faith was 100% tested when I lost my dad. But it wasn't affected because I watched him lose his brother and I watched him lose his mother. And his brother was a difficult loss for him. And I think me being able to see, like I've never seen my dad to the point that he was at when he lost his brother. Because he was like truly upset with God, because it was like, but my uncle's name was Paul, and he was like, Paul never troubled no one. Paul basically just took care of my mother and all of this. So why did he have to go the way that he went? He died in a car accident, or in an accident, a vehicular accident. So my dad was completely upset. And, you know, I remind myself every day, like that point in his life was where his book, Rediscovering Kingdom Faith, that's where that came from. So I've read that book since 2014. I've read that book, I think, 3 or 5 times now. And just being able to remind myself of that book, it keeps you humble and it keeps you grounded, because you get to understand, like, faith isn't hoping for something to happen or having faith for something to happen and it happening and then you being fine with it. Faith is having faith for something to happen and that never happens and you being fine with it. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, that's how I look at it. Like, we have these visions and we feel like we have this purpose for our life and these great things that we want to do. And we attempt to accomplish those things. But the key is, if you don't accomplish them, then what? Are you going to give up? Are you going to quit? Are you going to blame God? Are you going to blame someone else? No, you just, you learn, you persevere through it, you learn from it, and you continue to build on it until, you know, if God calls you home, he calls you home. But I think faith is real. Like, you need faith to see something that isn't there, but believe that one day it'll happen. So that's kind of one of the, my dad his faith was untouchable to me. Like, I've learned so much just from his strength, or the faith that he had. So for me, anything, and you know, like, I'm to the point now where whatever happens, like, I catch it at this point. Like, nothing surprises me anymore. I don't have to dodge anything anymore. Like, I'm just standing here with my gloves on and I'm ready to catch whatever is thrown at me, because life has thrown the biggest ball at me, and I think we did a good job handling that. So.
And a meeting like this, we're able to have meetings like this every year, even meetings like our trips like our Explore Africa tour that aren't religious, because of my dad and the kingdom message. You know, religion is going to tell you you have to have it in the church, you have to have praise and worship, teaching, and an altar call. And that's going to be the 4 things you have to do if it's religious. Whereas the kingdom totally gets rid of that and says, look, the kingdom is any and everywhere, in any aspect, in any area and stream of life. Whether it's business, whether it's finance, whether it's health, whether it's entertainment, whether it's mainstream, it doesn't matter. The kingdom lives in us. We are the kingdom of God. We are the ones that are carrying the principles of the Bible. And so that's why even up here, as much as this is a leadership/business conference, we can't help but talk about God. We can't help but say, man, this is a scripture that we have held on to and that we have exposed. And so that has helped us. And so, you know, we're able to do these meetings and they still have that kingdom mentality and that kingdom mindset without shoving because I don't know, there may be someone out there who's not in the kingdom, but that doesn't mean that we can't reach you. Religion is going to say, if you don't have the Bible and you're not reading it, you don't do an altar call, then you can't be here. That's not what the Monroe brand is about, from Miles Monroe down. My dad was able to speak to any audience, and I watch my dad speak to churches. I watch him speak to pastors, to government leaders, to secular leaders. I watch him speak to all and everybody. And he never changed under no circumstances. His belief, his faith never changed. He didn't necessarily carry around the Bible. He didn't have a shirt that said, you must be a believer. He was just him. And everyone could look at him and say, man, what is different about this man? What is different about you? And I want to know more. And that is what Charo, if nothing else, that is what we want people to see. Man, what is different about that Monroe brand? I want to go to MEL. Why is MEL so different than some other leadership conference going on? And so, you know, we continue to thank you for your support. But we are going to continue to do what we have been prepared and taught to do.
I did not want to ask a question, but I wanted to tell you guys, like this man, that I'm proud of you, even though I don't know you personally. But your father, I didn't know him personally either, but he put so much into my life because I'm a person who grew up with TBN. And whenever he was on TBN, I would listen because God has taught me so much from different pastors. And this is why I think what you're doing is fantastic, because people have to see Jesus in us. We cannot shove them the Bible. They have to see Jesus in us, the way we walk, the way we talk, the way we do things, and say, oh, we want what you have. And so when I look at you guys from what you went through, because I remember when I heard your father and mother died in that plane accident, I tell you, I cried. I cried, and the first thing I did, I called a friend and I said, do you know who died? Husband and wife. I tell you the truth, it's almost like I was mad at God, and I'm saying, these people, how can this happen to these people? You know, I was just like talking to God like this, you know. But sometimes we don't know why things happen, but we just have to learn to trust him and just go with him the miles that he wants us to go, you know, because he has great things in store for us, and we have to in the journey, to thank him for what he's doing, you know.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to say also one more thing. Jessie is my daughter, and I'm so proud of her from where she is right now. But I also wanted to say that you guys shouldn't be too afraid of what she said, because you have to take things one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, the way God tells you to do it. You ask the Lord what you can do, because even myself, I've done a few things, and it has helped me a lot. I've not gotten to where she would like to be, but it's 1 minute at a time, because this is overwhelming. So I can understand you being overwhelmed.
Amen. So I could still eat chicken and fish.
So I want you to understand that. And naturally, if you have a sickness and you're very bad or things like that, you have to go all the way if you really want something. But if you don't, then you take it little by little, little by little, and then, you know, you'll get there eventually.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you very much.
We walk by faith and not by sight.
Thank you. I just want to thank all of you for your contributions to this event, to what we were trying to do. I hope, I thank you for your question, because it allowed me to really summarize, you know, and conclude what I wanted this event to do for us these past 2 days. So I want to thank this group of awesome talent. I'm sorry. We scrapped for time. Yeah. So, if you have a question, any more question, you can just pull any speaker you had a question for aside, and you could ask it. Okay. But thank you guys so much for your contribution. It's going to be another building block for us to continue MEL and to make it even a much more larger and more impactful brand in the future. So thank you guys for accepting this invitation. Thank you guys.